Imagine someone is all smiles while extending a hand, but out of sight, they're holding a knife. It's a jarring image, yet it perfectly illustrates the idea of hidden power moves in social interactions. In our daily lives, conversations and relationships can sometimes feel like a high-stakes chess match, a game of social chess. People make calculated moves, often subtle or friendly on the surface, to gain the upper hand. These hidden power moves are the tactics individuals use to assert dominance, influence others, or protect their own status, all without coming across as openly aggressive. In this informative guide, we'll break down the concept of social chess and help you recognize the covert strategies at play. We'll explore why people resort to these subtle power plays and walk through common examples, from sly conversational tactics to passive-aggressive ploys and emotional manipulation. By the end, you'll be better equipped to spot the hidden moves people play, allowing you to respond with confidence and maintain control of your own narrative. Let's dive in. Every social interaction involves a dynamic of power. Who is leading? Who is following? Whose needs or ideas take precedence? Often these dynamics aren't explicitly discussed. They play out under the surface, much like a chess player strategizing several moves ahead. This is why we call it social chess. The moves aren't literal chess moves, of course, but strategic behaviors, subtle cues, words, or actions that can shift the balance of power in a conversation or relationship. Crucially, hidden power moves are not obvious like shouting orders or overt bullying. In fact, a hallmark of these moves is that they appear benign, neutral, or even kind on the surface, while concealing an ulterior motive or effect. As one expert defines it, a covert power move is anything that disempowers you, but on the surface seems neutral, apologetic, or even friendly. In other words, the real message is delivered through subtext or subcommunication, the unspoken implications beneath the polite words. Often what's said aloud is only the tip of the iceberg, with the true intent lurking beneath. It's in this hidden subtext that your status or confidence can be undermined without you immediately realizing. Why engage in such covert tactics? Why not be direct? The simple answer is that subtle power moves can be very effective without provoking the backlash that open aggression or obvious domination attempts might cause. Manipulators know that if their move isn't clearly identified as hostile, it's less likely to be challenged. Research on social aggression supports this. Indirect tactics are less likely to trigger retaliation. In fact, covert aggressors often benefit because third parties can debate whether any harm was intentional, and victims may not retaliate since they aren't even sure an attack occurred. In short, being sneaky gives the aggressor an advantage of deniability. They can always say, "Oh, I didn't mean anything by it," while still achieving the desired power boost. It's important to note that not all hidden power moves stem from evil intentions. Some people deploy these behaviors unconsciously. They might have learned early on that being indirect gets them what they want, or they might simply be mirroring common workplace or social strategies. In other cases, someone might truly think they're being encouraging or helpful, not realizing they're asserting dominance in a subtle way. However, as one business expert points out, when it comes to power imbalances, impact is often more important than intent. If you consistently feel your confidence or standing slipping away in an interaction, then a power move is likely occurring, regardless of whether the person realizes they're doing it. That's why spotting these moves is so critical. Once you can see the game for what it is, you won't be as easily pawed off the board. Now let's examine some of the most common categories of hidden power moves, along with real examples of each. Keep in mind that these can happen anywhere, at work meetings, on dates, among friends, even within families. Social chess is universal. By becoming aware of the gambits people play, you'll start seeing the subtle power plays in everyday life and be prepared to respond strategically. One arena where hidden power moves flourish is ordinary conversation. In a simple chat, one person can quietly take control or elevate themselves using very understated tactics. These aren't about yelling or interrupting outright, which are obvious power moves. Instead, they manipulate the flow and tone of the conversation in their favor. Here are several subtle conversational power plays to watch for. 1. Intentionally pausing, using silence as a move. Silence can be a weapon. A well-timed pause in conversation might seem like nothing, but it speaks volumes. When someone deliberately pauses after speaking, they create a moment of tension that often prompts others to fill the void. You might find yourself spilling more information than you intended, or rushing to agree just to break the silence. Skilled communicators know this and use strategic pauses to make their words appear more thoughtful or important. Psychologists note that a pause can make your statements feel more weighty and authoritative to listeners. The subtext here is, my words carry enough weight that I don't need to rush. You should absorb them. If you notice someone consistently using long or pointed silences, recognize it as a possible power move. They may be trying to steer the conversation by forcing you to react. How to counter it? Don't be rattled by the silence. Take your time to gather your thoughts, or even mirror the pause. Remember that you have an equal right to let ideas sink in. Once you're aware that silence can be intentional, you can choose whether to fill it or let the moment linger until they speak next. This way, you don't automatically surrender the conversational lead. Second, name dropping and credentials. Casually mentioning, I was chatting with important person the other day, or flaunting a connection to a prestigious group can instantly tilt the status balance. Name dropping is a strategy to imply, I have powerful friends, knowledge, or status, so my opinions carry weight. It's not just about bragging, it's meant to subtly make others in the conversation view the name dropper as more influential or well-connected. For example, in a team meeting, someone might say, when I discussed this issue with our CEO last week, even if the discussion was trivial, the speaker positions themselves as an insider with access. The key to this power move is subtlety. If overdone, it's obvious and backfires, coming off as arrogant. But the clever operator will weave in credentials or famous names just enough that it bolsters their authority without seeming out of place. When you hear name dropping, ask yourself, is this adding useful info, or is it mainly there to impress? Being aware of it helps you not automatically buy into the inflated credibility. You can acknowledge the info but still evaluate ideas on their merit, not just on who said them. Beyond names of people, watch for credential dropping as well, like mentioning degrees, awards, or years of experience unnecessarily. Example: as someone who's published 3 books on this topic, sure, it might be relevant, but it can also be a move to establish, I'm the expert here, listen to me. Respect expertise, but don't let it cow you into assuming the person must be right about everything. Third, mirroring your body language. Have you ever noticed someone start adopting your posture, gestures, or tone during a conversation? They pick up your slang, or if you cross your legs, a moment later they do the same. This is called mirroring, and it's often an intentional or trained technique to build rapport. On the surface, mirroring is friendly. It's a way of non-verbally saying, see, we're on the same wavelength. And indeed, psychological studies have found that subtle mirroring increases likability and bonding between people. So how is this a power move? Well, by creating trust and comfort, the person who mirrors can lower your guard. You might feel more positively toward them and more inclined to agree or follow their suggestions without realizing why. Additionally, the one doing the mirroring is controlling the dance of the interaction. They're deliberately managing the vibe to influence you. It's a form of social stealth. They get you to feel, this person is like me, which can give them an edge in persuasion. Mirroring can be totally benign. Friends do it naturally when they really click. But if you sense someone is consciously echoing your moves or words, it might be tactical. How to respond. You don't need to call it out. That could make things awkward. But do a mental check. Am I agreeing or trusting this person more quickly than I normally would? If yes, slow down and evaluate what they're saying on its own merits. Enjoy the rapport, but stay aware of your own stance and boundaries. Fourth, asking leading questions. This move comes straight out of the playbook of lawyers and clever debaters. A leading question is phrased in a way that nudges you toward a specific answer. For example, don't you think this plan is our best option? Or, wouldn't you agree that we had no choice? The question itself contains an assumption that the plan is best or that we had no choice, making it harder to disagree without feeling a bit contrary. By asking such questions, a person can guide the conversation in the direction they want, all the while appearing to simply seek your input. Leading questions are powerful because humans have a natural tendency to go along to preserve harmony, especially if the prompt to agree is subtle. You might find yourself saying, "Yeah, that makes sense," even if, upon reflection, you have reservations. The tactic here is influencing your opinion by framing it as almost a given. It's a gentle form of mind steering. Spotting this hidden move is half the battle. When someone asks a question that already contains the answer they want, pause and consider your true thoughts. It's absolutely okay to say, "Actually, I'm not sure I do think that," or to reframe the question, "What do I think is the best option?" Let's look at all possibilities. By recognizing the subtle push embedded in the question, you reclaim your ability to decide for yourself rather than being led down a preset path. 5. Framing statements as questions. Closely related to leading questions is the habit of phrasing a statement as a question to soften resistance. For instance, instead of saying, "This is what we'll do," someone might say, "Isn't this what we should do?" Or deliver their statement with an upward inflection as if asking. On the face of it, they sound collaborative. They appear to be inviting dialogue. But in reality, they're often simply asserting their idea in a way that makes it hard for others to object. Psychologically, it feels less confrontational to agree when something is phrased as a polite query rather than a direct order. This technique is a favorite in leadership and sales settings. "Wouldn't it be great if we could meet this deadline a week early?" said by a boss. This is less a question and more an expectation being planted. The brilliance of phrasing statements as questions is that it creates an illusion of choice or consensus, even though the speaker is driving towards their desired outcome. You feel included because you were asked, but the ask was skewed from the start. To handle this, recognize the difference between genuine questions and rhetorical questions that steer you. A genuine question doesn't presume an answer. So if you notice someone frequently doing this, don't be afraid to give an unexpected answer if that reflects your view. For example, "Actually, I'm not sure it is the best approach. Here's why." Deliver it calmly, and you'll break the spell of automatic agreement. Remember, polite phrasing doesn't require automatic compliance. Sixth, giving strategic, sometimes backhanded, compliments. Who doesn't enjoy a compliment? Kind words put us at ease and create goodwill. But compliments can also be deployed with a purpose beyond mere flattery. A savvy individual may offer praise at calculated moments to influence you. This is a strategic compliment. For example, a coworker might tell you, "You're really the expert on this project. I trust your judgment completely," right before they suggest you take on a difficult task that benefits them. The initial praise puts you in a positive frame of mind and makes you more receptive to their follow-up request or idea. It's like sweetening you up to lower your defenses. In psychology, this is sometimes called the compliment sandwich when giving feedback. But here the aim is persuasion or control, not just softening criticism. Even more insidious is the backhanded compliment or condescending praise. A remark that sounds like a compliment but carries an insult or a note of superiority. For example, "I'm impressed you managed to pull that off, given your experience level." Ouch. The speaker frames themselves as the gracious evaluator of your performance, subtly putting you one down. Similarly, Patronizing encouragement falls in this category. Good job on your presentation, you actually made some good points. Or, I believe in you, you can do it, said in a tone that implies surprise at your competence. These statements seem supportive but have an undercurrent of, I wasn't expecting you to do well, or, you need my validation to succeed. The hidden power move in backhanded compliments is twofold. First, they diminish your confidence. You feel that something wasn't quite right about the praise, which can make you second-guess yourself. Second, they position the giver as above you, the judge of quality or the benevolent supporter. As one social dynamics expert explains, patronizing encouragements like, be confident or you can do it, inherently imply you aren't currently confident or capable enough, and that the encourager occupies a higher status role. It's empowerment in appearance, but disempowerment in effect. When you receive a compliment, consider the context. A genuine compliment stands on its own. A strategic compliment often precedes a request or suggestion. Ask yourself, why are they telling me this now? And if you get a backhanded compliment that makes you feel a sting, trust that feeling. You can respond by simply thanking them, not giving them the satisfaction of seeing you rattled, or with gentle pushback for egregious cases, e.g., I'm happy with my experience level, and I'm always learning more. Most importantly, mentally label it for what it is, a subtle power play, not an accurate reflection of your worth. 7. Using we instead of I. This move is all about inclusive language, and it can be positive or manipulative depending on intent. By saying we instead of I, a speaker tries to create a sense of unity and shared purpose. For instance, a manager might say, we need to get this done, to imply that everyone, including them, is in the same boat. Used sincerely, this fosters teamwork. However, it can also be a strategic way to align others with your idea without making it seem like you're imposing it. If I constantly frame my proposals as what we should do, you may start to feel that disagreeing with my idea is somehow going against the group. Moreover, saying we can subtly spread out responsibility or soften statements. We might have overlooked some details, instead of I overlooked details or you did. It's a gentle way to assert something or deliver criticism while minimizing defensiveness. The power move here is that the speaker appears inclusive and collaborative, all the while guiding everyone toward the outcome they want. It's a more covert way of leading because it sounds like togetherness, not authority. To spot this, notice if someone flips to we language, particularly when they want buy-in. Do you truly feel it's a joint decision or idea? If yes, great. If not, you can acknowledge the togetherness but still assert your individual view. I understand we have a shared goal. I'd like to add my perspective on how we get there. Using we back can be powerful too, as in, we should make sure all options are considered. This politely reminds the group and the initiator that collective decision-making means multiple viewpoints. 8th, controlling the topic of discussion. Another subtle strategy is when a person consistently steers the conversation to topics where they feel strongest or that serve their agenda. This is akin to controlling the board in chess, choosing the battleground that favors you. For example, let's say during a team meeting, whenever a certain colleague is uncomfortable with a subject, perhaps it highlights their mistake, they quickly pivot. Speaking of X, have we considered Y? Shifting focus to a topic they prefer. Or a friend who always redirects conversations back to their own interests or achievements, ensuring they remain the center of attention. By shifting and controlling topics, one can exert a lot of influence without seeming domineering. It often goes unnoticed because on the surface it feels like the natural flow of conversation. But linguistics experts, like Dr. Deborah Tannen, note that the power to set or change the topic is a significant form of conversational control. If you always get to decide what's being talked about, you're effectively leading the interaction. Think about interactions where you come away realizing you never got to discuss what you wanted, or the other person's preferred subjects took all the airtime. That could be topic control in action. To counteract an overzealous topic controller, gently bring the conversation back. Before we move on, I'd like to finish what we were talking about. Or, that's an interesting point. We can get to that in a minute. But I wanted to address something on the current topic first. It's about asserting that your topics matter too. Recognizing this move ensures you don't get talked out of your agenda without even realizing it. Ninth, echoing your words, selective parroting. This tactic, known as echoing, involves repeating back some of what you've said. On its own, this can be a great active listening technique. It shows the listener is engaged and understanding you. For instance, you say, "I had a really tough week trying to finish that report," and the person responds, "A tough week, huh?" By echoing "tough week," they validate your experience and encourage you to continue. So far, so good. Nothing nefarious. However, savvy communicators might use echoing strategically. By selectively repeating key phrases you use, they can guide you to elaborate further on those points or emphasize ideas that they want to highlight. It's a way to direct the conversation subtly. If they echo a worry you expressed, not sure about the results you say, you may feel invited to justify or explain more, revealing additional info. In negotiations, a skilled negotiator might echo certain words to fish for details or to make you feel heard so that you become more open to their proposals. To spot this, notice if someone is overdoing the parroting. Does it feel natural or a bit methodical? If you sense it's the latter, they might be using your own words to influence the flow. The defense here is simple. Be mindful of what you volunteer. If you don't want to go deeper into a subject, don't take the bait of an echoed phrase. You can acknowledge it briefly and pivot. On the flip side, you can use echoing yourself to subtly assert control. You highlight the parts of their statements you want to focus on. Just use it sparingly and sincerely, or it can appear mocking. 10th, subtle interruptions and over-talking. We usually think of interrupting as a blatant power move, and it often is when someone constantly talks over you. But there's a subtler form of interruption that can be just as controlling, the well-timed interjection that seems cooperative. For example, you're explaining something, and the other person jumps in with a quick agreement or a finishing of your sentence, then continues with their point. It feels like they're on the same page. Yes, exactly, and that's why I think we should. But in reality, they have derailed your turn to speak and taken over the floor. Such polite interruptions often masquerade as enthusiasm or clarification. The interrupter might lean in with, right, and that led to, correct, before you were done talking. You nod, and suddenly they are the one elaborating on your point. This tactic allows them to control the direction without the social fallout of a harsh interruption. It can throw you off just enough that you yield. If you notice someone doing this frequently, it's a sign they're trying to keep control of the conversation's momentum. To maintain your ground, you might continue speaking a bit past their interjection, politely but firmly finishing your thought, or circle back, as I was saying, and complete your point. It can also be useful after they finish to calmly say, I'd like to add back to what I was saying earlier, which reminds everyone that you hadn't completed your thought. Staying poised is key. By not letting a subtle interruption derail you, you signal that you're not so easily edged out. 11th, assuming agreement, speaking as if everyone agrees. This is a crafty verbal maneuver where someone speaks as though the matter is already settled and everyone is on board. Phrases like, we all can agree that, or, as we all know, this is the only solution, fall into this category. By assuming agreement, the person tries to preempt disagreement. After all, if everyone agrees, you'd be an outlier to object, right? It's a way of applying social pressure without ever overtly pressuring. The idea is that others will feel it's easier to nod along rather than be the lone dissenter who breaks the comfortable illusion of consensus. This move often appears in group settings, like team discussions or meetings. For example, a team lead might say, "We all want this project to succeed, so we'll be putting in extra hours," bundling a potentially unpopular directive, extra hours, inside a statement of common goal, project success. If no one speaks up, it slides through as accepted. It's also seen in social situations. "We're all friends here, so I'm sure nobody will mind if I do something presumptuous." To counter this, you don't have to be confrontational. Simply voice your own view if it differs. "Actually, I have a slightly different perspective on that," or "I'm not sure I fully agree with that assumption." This politely punctures the bubble of unanimous consent. If you feel put on the spot by a "we all agree" statement, remember that if you don't agree, then it's not truly "we all." Others might be relieved that someone spoke up, as they could be feeling the same way and also felt the pressure to conform. By challenging the presumed consensus, you level the field and ensure an open discussion can happen. 12. Using anecdotes and stories to influence. Storytelling is a powerful communication tool. A well-chosen anecdote can illustrate a point more persuasively than a factual argument. People using hidden power moves know this and might continuously insert personal stories that support their agenda or viewpoint. For example, during a debate on a course of action, one person might share a lengthy story of "when I tried something similar and it failed miserably." The story might be true and relevant, but it's also a strategic way to frame the narrative around their desired outcome, i.e., not doing that action. Because stories engage emotions and are memorable, this can sway opinions subtly. Another angle is using anecdotes to establish moral or experiential high ground. Someone could trot out a personal tale that puts them in a favorable light relative to the current topic. "When I dealt with a client like this, I made sure to prioritize transparency," implying others should follow their righteous or experienced example. It's a soft flex. They're not directly saying "I'm better," but their story does that subtextual work for them. When you find yourself influenced by someone's story, take a step back. Appreciate the story, but analyze. Is this anecdote generally applicable, or just one perspective? Could there be other examples or outcomes they aren't mentioning? You might even bring the conversation back to a factual footing. That's interesting. Thank you for sharing. I wonder what overall data experience says on this issue, aside from individual cases. This acknowledges their story, but also signals that one story doesn't automatically decide the issue. If you have your own relevant anecdote, you can share it too. A battle of narratives can sometimes balance things out, letting the group see multiple angles. 13th, humor as a disarming tool. Laughter lightens the mood and can make people more receptive. But humor can also be wielded strategically in power dynamics. A person might use jokes or wit to defuse objections, indirectly critique someone, or subtly assert dominance while everyone is chuckling. For example, if someone challenges them in a meeting, they might respond with a light joke that gets a laugh and changes the subject. The challenger is left without a foothold, not wanting to be a killjoy by pressing the point. Similarly, a person might make you the butt of a gentle joke in front of others. If done skillfully, it comes off as friendly teasing, but it also can undermine you or signal their higher status. They can joke about you, meaning they feel secure enough to do so. A well-timed quip can also be a way to voice something risky under the cover of "just kidding." Perhaps you propose an idea and they say with a smirk, "Oh sure, what could possibly go wrong?" Followed by a laugh. Everyone might laugh along, but the seed of doubt about your idea is planted without a serious debate. This is a hidden move because if confronted, they can always say, "Relax, it was just a joke." Yet the impact on the discussion is real. To handle this, consider the intent behind the humor. If someone frequently uses humor whenever serious issues or challenges arise, they might be redirecting or downplaying concerns to maintain control. You don't need to lose your sense of humor. Please don't. Humor is positive. But you can bring things back on track after a laugh. Ha ha ha, that's funny. But in all seriousness, I think we should reiterate your point. This shows you're not rattled or sidetracked. If you feel a joke at your expense was unfair, you can respond with a good-natured but pointed comment. I see, taking shots at me to get a laugh, huh? I'll remember that, said, smiling. Often, just signaling that you notice the move is enough to prevent further jabs. The goal is to enjoy humor without letting it be used as a smokescreen that conceals power plays. Not all power plays happen through smooth conversation tactics. Some of the most damaging hidden moves are passive-aggressive behaviors, actions, or inactions, that send a message of dominance or disapproval without direct confrontation. These can be especially tricky to spot because the person will deny any ill intent if called out, "What? I was just busy, not avoiding you." Let's shed light on a few common passive-aggressive power moves people use. Playing hard to get, feigning scarcity or busyness. In social or work situations, one person might frequently make the other wait, cancel plans last minute, or delay responses to messages, always with plausible excuses. "Sorry, I've been so busy," can be genuine, but chronically using busyness as a shield often serves to establish superiority. The underlying message is, "My time is more important than yours, you are not a priority." As power dynamics writer Lucio Buffalmano notes, when someone habitually claims they were too busy for you, it subcommunicates that your concerns rank lower and you should be the one chasing for their time. In a dating context, this is the classic make them chase you strategy. In a professional context, it might be a way a colleague asserts status, e.g., taking long to reply to emails to seem very in demand. If you notice a pattern, recognize that it's not about them genuinely always being busy, it's about control. One way to counter this is not to jump and run every time they do respond or show up. Set your own terms and boundaries politely, e.g., "No worries, I figured you were busy. Let's reschedule when it suits us both." The pseudo-apology. "I'm sorry, but..." Apologies are normally seen as humility, not power. But a fake or strategic apology can be a power move in disguise. For instance, "I'm sorry you felt that way," which really places the fault on your feelings, not their action. Or someone might say, "Sorry I yelled, but maybe you shouldn't have provoked me." These non-apologies actually reinforce the power imbalance. They remind you that you were hurt, making you the sensitive or guilty party, and reassert that the apologizer was actually justified. In some cases, people even invent reasons to say sorry just to make you look or feel overly sensitive. For example, "I'm sorry if I was rude to you earlier," when the possibility hadn't crossed your mind, can make you think, "Wait, were they rude? Should I be upset?" It's a weird reverse mind game. The power play here is that by apologizing, they cast themselves as magnanimous and subtly imply you're fragile or in the wrong. How to handle it? Don't get drawn into a big discussion of the apology itself. A simple, "Thanks for saying that, let's move forward," works. Or even, "I didn't take it that way, but I appreciate the thought." If the apology is a backhanded one, with a "but" that blames you, you might calmly address the blame portion separately. "I accept your apology." On the other point, I'd like to clarify, this shows you won't be guilt-tripped by a faux apology. Backhanded insults disguised as jokes. We touched on this with humor, but it's worth emphasizing as a passive-aggressive staple. The person might make snarky or undermining comments and then quickly add, "Just kidding," or, "You know I'm joking, right?" to avoid accountability. For example, "Wow, you actually did a decent job on this report. Didn't see that coming. Ha ha ha. Just kidding." You're left wondering if they truly respect you or not. The hidden power move here is that they get to drop the insult, establishing one-up status, but escape repercussions by wrapping it in humor. You end up looking overly serious if you call it out. In many circles, this kind of banter is common, But if it's one-sided or always directed at making you the lesser, it's not just friendly joking. It's a pattern of asserting dominance. In response, you can choose to not laugh along and instead respond earnestly, "I know you said that in jest, but I take pride in my work," making it clear the jab didn't go unnoticed. Often, shining a light on the remark, without losing your cool, is enough to discourage future ones. The silent treatment, withholding communication or affection. While not a move in conversation, withdrawing is a classic power play in relationships and even sometimes in professional settings. By refusing to talk, respond, or even acknowledge someone, the person exerting silent treatment puts the other in a position of anxiety and pursuit. It's a way to punish without overt confrontation. The affected person is left stewing in guilt or confusion, often compelled to apologize or give in just to end the silence. The power aspect is clear. The silent party controls when normal interaction resumes, essentially training the other to avoid whatever behavior supposedly caused the shutdown. If you encounter this, recognize it for the manipulation it is. In a professional context, document attempts to communicate, so you aren't blamed for lack of contact. In a personal context, once you identify this pattern, it helps to calmly address it. "I sense you're upset. I'm open to talk when you're ready. Until then, I'll give you space." Importantly, do not capitulate to unreasonable demands just to break the silence. That rewards the tactic. Maintain your composure and normal life. The ball is in their court to communicate maturely. Guilt tripping and playing the victim. Some people seize power by making you feel responsible for their emotions or well-being, even when you objectively shouldn't. For instance, a friend might say, "It's fine, go have fun without me. I'll just be here alone. I'm used to it," with a heavy sigh. That line drips with passive-aggressive guilt inducement. If you take the bait, you cancel your plans to appease them, thereby granting them power over your decision. In a family or partner scenario, one might hear, "After all I've sacrificed for you, this is how you repay me," which casts the speaker as the long-suffering martyr and you as the selfish one, instantly putting you on the defensive. These moves work by exploiting empathy. They know you care, and they turn that against you to get their way. The best defense is a combination of empathy and boundary setting. Acknowledge their feelings without immediately changing your course. "I know you feel left out, and I'm sorry you're upset. However, I did make these plans and I need to follow through. Let's schedule something together soon." Don't argue about the sacrifice angle if it's thrown at you. Instead, respond to the present issue and stand firm on your decision. By not giving in to exaggerated victim claims, you discourage that tactic over time. In all these passive-aggressive scenarios, the common theme is concealed intent. The person won't admit they're doing a power play. They may not even fully admit it to themselves. They often frame you as the unreasonable one if you call them out. Thus, your primary tool is clear-sightedness. See it for what it is. Once identified, you can address the content of what's happening without getting sucked into the guilt, drama, or confusion they're trying to create. It's like stepping outside the game. You can then respond rationally, and not as the pawn they want to maneuver. In the darker end of the spectrum, some hidden power moves cross into full-on emotional manipulation, often discussed under the label of dark psychology. These are strategies used by highly toxic individuals, like narcissists, sociopaths, or simply very manipulative personalities, to gain and maintain power over others' psyches. They tend to systematically erode a person's confidence, sense of reality, or self-worth as a means of control. Here are two of the most notorious tactics and how to spot them. Gaslighting, distorting your reality. Gaslighting is perhaps one of the most sinister power moves because it's not just about winning a conversation. It's about subverting your very perception of truth. The term comes from the classic film Gaslight. where a husband manipulatively makes his wife doubt her own sanity. In practice, gaslighting involves someone lying or presenting false information, then denying your correct perceptions, making you question your memory, judgment, or even sanity. For example, they might insist, "I never said that," when you clearly remember they did, or "You're overreacting, that never happened," even though you experienced it. Over time, repeated gaslighting can wear down your confidence in your own mind, giving the gaslighter immense power. You start deferring to their version of reality. Psychology experts define gaslighting as a combination of brainwashing, psychological bullying, and emotional abuse with the goal of domination and control. It's essentially mental warfare. Signs of gaslighting include: you frequently feel confused about past events or find yourself apologizing a lot. You make excuses for the manipulator's behavior to friends or family. You think, "Maybe I am too sensitive because that's what they tell you," or you feel like you can't do anything right. If you suspect gaslighting, it's crucial to document facts. Keep a journal of incidents, save messages, and possibly talk to a trusted third party about what's happening. Hearing an outside perspective can affirm that you're not crazy. In confronting a gaslighter, stick to concrete evidence if you have it, or disengage from debates about what is real. They thrive on those. Ultimately, consistent gaslighting is a serious abuse. Seeking professional help or distancing yourself from the gaslighter is often necessary to rebuild your sense of reality. Love bombing and withholding, hot-cold manipulation. This tactic is often seen in romantic or dating contexts, but variations can occur in friendships or even in how a boss manages employees. Love bombing is when someone overwhelms you with affection, praise, attention, and positivity. It feels like you've found the most validating person on earth. Then, once you're emotionally invested and dependent on that high, they abruptly withhold those signs of affection or approval. This sudden coldness or distance creates a panic in you. You crave to get back in their good graces. In doing so, you become more compliant and eager to please them. Essentially, they train you like Pavlov's dog. You get treats of love when you do what they like, and you get the cold shoulder when you don't. It's a powerful control cycle because it heavily messes with your dopamine/reward system and self-esteem. One week, you're the best thing ever. So you open up, give love back, maybe give them trust or resources. The next week, they act bored or irritated, and you're scrambling to figure out what you did wrong. To spot this, look at consistency of someone's treatment. Intense flattery and attention very early on, especially if it feels too good to be true, can be a red flag. If it's followed by sudden shifts, like they pull away or start criticizing you out of nowhere, you may be on a string. Healthy relationships and people have more stable and moderate patterns of affection and feedback. Extreme highs and lows are a sign of manipulation or emotional volatility. If you find yourself in this roller coaster, step back and assess. Are they manipulating me to chase their approval? Often, discussing the pattern with an outsider, who isn't under the person's charismatic spell, can help you see it clearly. The best response is not to play into the game. Maintain your equilibrium. If they withdraw, don't immediately beg or apologize. Give them space and focus on your own activities. If they lavish praise, enjoy it, but keep grounded in your own self-worth. Don't let your happiness hinge entirely on their validation. Over time, consistent hot-cold behavior is toxic. Setting boundaries or walking away may be necessary to protect your emotional well-being. These emotional manipulation tactics are at the extreme end of hidden power moves. They often involve patterns of behavior over time, rather than one-off comments. They can be psychologically devastating, effectively turning a relationship into a power imbalance where one side has near-total emotional control. Important: if you recognize that you're dealing with these kinds of behaviors regularly in a relationship, romantic, familial, or even a close friendship or work situation, it may be beyond a simple matter of spotting a power play. You could be in an abusive dynamic. In such cases, seeking support, counselors, support groups, or confiding in someone you trust, is crucial. Knowledge is power. Once you identify gaslighting or other dark manipulations, you can begin to detach the undue influence they have on you and take steps to reclaim your autonomy. Life is full of social chess matches, some friendly and trivial, others high stakes and consequential. By learning to spot hidden power moves, you've essentially sharpened your vision to see the game board underneath everyday interactions. Rather than feeling vaguely uneasy or off balance when someone pulls a sly maneuver, you can now recognize, I see what you're doing there. This awareness alone puts you back in control of your responses. Armed with this knowledge, remember that you don't have to respond to power plays with power plays. In fact, escalating to an outright battle can harm relationships and reputations. Often the best way to counter a subtle power move is with calm assertiveness and transparency. For example, if someone is using a covert technique like a leading question or assumed agreement, respond with clarity and your own stance. If someone is patronizing you with a condescending compliment, smile and self-assuredly acknowledge your achievement without needing their approval. If a coworker or friend is constantly making you chase them, stop chasing. Value your time and politely make it known that you expect mutual respect. In essence, you can choose to step out of the one-down position they're trying to put you in. This doesn't mean being combative. It often means not playing along with the script they've set. When you don't feed into a manipulator's expected reactions, for instance, you don't get flustered by a pause, you don't bristle at a backhanded comment, you don't melt at a strategic compliment, the power move loses its power. Finally, as you become adept at recognizing these strategies, you might also introspect and catch yourself if you ever unconsciously use them. We are all human, and sometimes resort to tactics when we feel insecure. The goal isn't to turn every interaction into paranoia about power, but to foster healthier communication. Ideally, social chess can give way to social collaboration, where instead of power over, you practice power with others. Leadership researcher Tanya Luna contrasts these approaches well. A power over mindset tries to control others, whereas a power with approach uses one's power to uplift others and share control for mutual benefit. Strive for the latter in your own behavior, and you'll attract people who do the same. In conclusion, spotting hidden power moves allows you to protect your dignity and navigate complex social dynamics with a clear head. It's like being a skilled chess player who sees the whole board. You won't be easily blindsided by a sneaky checkmate. Instead, you can respond thoughtfully, maintain your self-respect, and even steer interactions toward more honest ground. In the grand game of social dynamics, the true win is building relationships based on respect and authenticity rather than manipulation. With the insights you've gained, you'll play your moves with confidence and on your own terms. Go forth and engage with eyes open and head held high. In this chess game of life, may you play it not just to win, but to win wisely. Good luck.